morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister Lal Stewart, His Excellency Dr. Perks Ligoya, Mr. Chairman, distinguished delegates, and also a very distinguished and wonderful team at IPGA, which has made this historic conference with over 800 delegates possible. And the people who were responsible for this achievement are sitting on my right. Ladies and gentlemen, a thunderous round of applause for them. I have been asked to make sense for India on pulses in about 20 minutes. But Mr. Chairman, may I request that when India occupies more than 25% of the global trade, at least you should allow me 25 minutes to explain my case. But before I do that,
23.
Thank you very much. I was about to show you a video which was later in the presentation, but I think I should show that video now to make sense of these numbers, because numbers are a very interesting thing. We have here in the audience maybe 300 people, and if I ask you to tell me your number on the import and the production, chances are 99% would be different. So this is the beauty with the numbers. We can say all the things and still get away with it, because there is no reliable or, opinions differ. Hari, can we have that video, please, which we were supposed to show a little later, but let's start with that video. This is how we do supply and demand estimation and calculation of numbers.
28 vacuums a week, that's a lot of vacuums to sell. And you only have 7 salesmen?
Certainly.
That means they got to sell 13 vacuums apiece.
You're right. 13 vacuum cleaners apiece?
Yes, sir.
What are you talking about? 7 times 13 is not 28.
Yes, it is.
7 times 4 is 28.
Mr. Chandler, 7 times 13 is 28.
7 times 4 is 28. Did you ever go to school, stupid?
Yes, sir. And I come out the same way.
Come here. You claim that 7 goes into 28 13 times?
That's right.
Go ahead, prove it. Go ahead.
All right.
There's the board. Well, go ahead.
All right, Mr. Chandler, I'm going to prove it.
Go ahead.
Now, you got 7 salesmen.
That's right.
Okay. There's a 7.
Where is it?
Right there.
All right.
Now, you got 28 vacuums a week you got to sell.
That's right.
I'm going to divide. There's your 28 vacuums.
Now, wait, you claim that 7 goes into 28 13 times?
That's right.
Show me.
7 into 2. 7 will go into 2.
Certainly not.
So I got to take the 2 from there and put it down here. Right over here.
Put it down there.
Yeah, I'm going to use that after a while. That's a cute little 2.
Yeah.
Now, 7 to 8?
Once.
Now, I'm going to carry the 7 from here and put it under the 8. 7 from 8?
1.
A minute ago, I didn't use that little 2.
What are you going to do?
I got to use that 2 now. I'm going to take it from there, and I'm going to put it right there.
Uh-huh.
Now, 7 to 21?
3 times.
That's correct. 7 to 28, 13.
Oh, no, nothing of the kind. What kind of figures are these? Just a minute.
It's got to come out right.
We'll multiply this. Go ahead.
Multiply it?
Put down 13.
Okay, 13.
That's right. And 7 salesmen, put that down.
7 salesmen.
Now, you claim that 7 times 13 amounts to what?
28.
Prove that.
7 times 3?
21.
7 times 1?
7.
7 and 1?
8.
And a 2.
28. Now, wait a minute. How do you figure, boy? You can't.
Good.
No, you can't do
That's
that.
right.
No, nothing of the kind. We'll add this up.
Adam?
Put down 13 7 times.
Okay.
It's 1, 2,
3,
4, 5, 6, 7. Now, wait a minute. You claim that all that added up amounts to what?
28.
If it does, you've got a job.
Thank you. 3.
Oh, no, wait a minute. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21.
22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28.
You're hired.
So this is a simplistic view sometimes how we go to the number. India, ladies and gentlemen, of course we talk about obvious, the largest importer, consumer and importer of pulses, but also to go a little bit in the background, especially for the benefit of our overseas guests. India is a kaleidoscope of colors, smells, sounds, language, cultures. And we have, my friends tell me that as a nation and as people, we have innate ability to thrill and frustrate at the same time, also inspire and annoy. So no matter how opinionated we are about India, but we can love or hate, but we can't ignore such a large nation which has this kind of power in the pulse trading industry. I owe my gratitude for this slide to my friend Brian Clancy. In our lifetime, if we go the way we are going, we need to double our food supplies. And as the largest democracy and the third largest economy, second most populous nation, 1.3 billion Indians, of which about 60% are under 30, we need pulses as an inseparable diet. It's not out of choice or knowledge, it's more out of habit and culture. Unfortunately, we have 18% of the global population, but we have only 2% of the agricultural land and less than 3.5% of the water resources, which puts a burden, and despite being self-sufficient and having a record production of 263.3 million tons this year, we still need to import food worth $25 billion, which is about 4% of the GDP. Let's put in perspective here again. India, we consume less than 30 to 40 grams protein per day, but there is a heavy reliance on carbohydrates. We love our rice, bread, and potatoes. So 75% of our food consists of carbohydrates, which is depicted in the darker bluish color. Little bit on Indian pulses. We grow pulses on an area of about 25 to 27 million hectares under various agroecological zones, and 87% of this area is depending on the rain gods, so it's non-irrigated. And the major crop cycles, we have two crop cycles. Sorry for repeating this, but I think for the benefit of overseas guests, 65% of the pulses crop is coming from our winter cycle, which is Rabi, and Kharif, which is monsoon, is about 35%. And being the main supplier, the chickpeas and the lentils and the yellow peas, especially for this conference, which is coinciding with the Rabi cycle, is of special interest to our overseas guests. So when you look at the global pulses calendar, because we have two crops, in a year of 12 months, about 10 months, we are very busy harvesting or seeding or talking about pulses. Chickpeas, for which yellow peas acts as a substitute, pigeon peas, for which lentils to some extent act as a substitute, they constitute about 60 to 65% of the pulses crops in India, with 6 major states: western, central, and southern states, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, accounting for about 90% of the total production. Pulses in India, we consider it as a political commodity, especially in an election year. Therefore, the value chain, and historically it has been, is very fragmented and characterized by multi-layered involvement of small-scale and medium-sized enterprises. Also, a great degree of government intervention at all levels. Interestingly, this is one of the few industries in India where large multinationals with hundreds of billions of dollars of turnover, they rub shoulder to shoulder with somebody who has very small. But so this is a very unique industry in India. This is how we consume pulses. This is not a very interesting view, so I'll change the view. We have this unique tradition of consuming pulses in every imaginable way: breads, cakes, curries, drinks, snacks, ingredients. And if you simply type Google dal or say Indian recipes for pulses, you will be greeted with 2.2 million results from the Google. And we have, every day we develop new ways to consume pulses. I was walking on a street in Calcutta, and I saw these Canadian yellow peas being sold on a roadside, not shop, in a kiosk in Calcutta. Then I started talking to, and the gentleman on your left is Mr. Rampal Yadav, who is an immigrant worker from Bihar into Calcutta. Each day, he buys 5 kilo of yellow peas, Canadian yellow peas, from the wholesale market at 32 rupees a kilo, which is equivalent of about $480 per metric ton CNF. He mixes spices, chilies, and potatoes and sells 100 plates from this 5 kilo at a CNF value, or at the equivalent value of $3,000 per metric ton, which is a value addition of almost 800% without investing in inventory and without having any reasonable fixed expenses. So this is a simple example of our innovative, in India we like to call it culinary jugaad, which can transform the most drab and non-exciting feed peas or yellow peas into the most delicious meal in India. This is the potential we are talking about here. With increasing population, currently at about 1.3 billion people, there is no doubt that domestic crop is inadequate to meet the entire demand, requiring annual import in excess of about 3 million tons, give or take which side you are. And some other interesting facts is that about 60% of Indian pulses are consumed at home. And because of declining per capita consumption, we have, yesterday the slide was shown by my friend Gordon Bacon, that after cereals, India, the pulses is the second most declining product, about 28 to 29%. But the heartwarming factor is that about 4 million tons of pulses are now being used in value-added sector, which is the way to go forward. Now let's look at some numbers. These are the numbers compiled from the private as well as independent publication. The third column is from an independent publication. If you look at the numbers, it looks like we are, in 2013-14, we are looking at about 3.15 million tons of imports. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Government of India's Valentine gift to the people of India. We were given these estimates on the 14th of February, according to which we have a record production of 263.2 million tons of food grain, of which rice is about, I think, 106 million tons, if I'm not wrong. And pulses are at 19.77 million tons. 19.77 million tons, which India's 600 million farmers with average land holding less than a hectare have achieved this target. In recent years, about 72% of this Rabi season is accounted by desi chickpeas, 3% is by moong, black mud pea is about 4%, and if we go a little bit more into details, in last historical about 60 years, the production and the area has been increasing slowly, but of course still a lot needs to be increased. Also the changing dynamics, that the yellow peas, which used to occupy about 18% of the imports, has gone to 50% lately. This is a slide which I have taken from Brian. He estimates imports about 3 million tons in 2013-14. Mr. Chandrasekhar is anywhere between 2.5 to 2.8. I think I should add both and divide by 2. That should be a simplistic way to do it. So we have numbers. These are big numbers. When you're talking about 19.7 million tons, you can go off by 500, half a million ton here and there. But as per the government data, we have 9.79 million metric tons of desi chickpeas, 3.34 million tons of pigeon peas, 1.59 million tons of black mud pea, 1.28 million metric tons of mung beans. The data for lentils and yellow peas is not classified, it's not available, but trade estimates are, which there is a by and large consensus, whosoever I spoke to, is about 750,000 tons for yellow peas and about 550,000 metric tons for the red lentils. This is an important slide. This is the data for 5 years. If you look at this slide, in 5 years, India has been able to grow the acres, the seeded area, by 16%. Also, the yield has improved to 16% if we look at 19.77 million tons crop this year. Production has jumped from 14.7 in 5 years, about 35%. And availability, if we take 3 million as a benchmark for average import, is about increased by 27%. So yes, things are improving, and they're improving, thankfully, at a faster pace. But before we go into the estimating other things, let's look at quickly. The Indian rupee has lost 52% in last 5 years. Against the exporting currencies, Australian dollar has lost only 30%, Canadian dollars has been the best performer, they lost only 18%. So my humble request to my friends in Canada and Australia and other exporting countries to be more gentler to our Indian brothers, because it's not only the power which they have to buy the pulses, but it's also a big burden on the Indian exchequer. Now, how much do we really need? If there are different estimates, if we go by World Health Organization prescribed 80 grams per day per person, then we need almost 38 million tons of total supply of pulses in India. But even if we go by Government of India required or suggested 50 grams, which is a reasonable estimate, 50 grams of pulses per capita per day, and we allow 10% for the feed, wastage and seeds, we will need 32 million tons pulses in 2030. This is the own data, and this is what they are targeting to have that. Now, how do we do it? This is the policy paper from IIPR. They want to grow 32 million tons in 2030 from current 19.77. They have assigned this task to 3 government bodies who have gone into 7 more schemes, and the total budget on R&D, and this is about $1 billion to accomplish this target. And this is where the breakup is going to come from. Since we seem to have already chickpea, to reach a chickpeas target, so the balance should come from other crops. Now, so how will they do it? This is we all keep asking that, can we really, logically, realistically grow 32 million tons pulses in 2030, which is a matter of 15, 17 years? So the scheme is they're attacking on the forefront. One is that they want to bring additional 3 to 5 million hectares under pulses cultivation in those areas which is not being used, especially around that time, and increasing the yield output from current 700 or 600, let's say 6 to 650 average, to about 1,361 kilos per hectare, the yield, and lots of R&D and GM schemes are being talked. So I don't know how effective that would be, but this is one idea. And also bringing pulses under MSP gambit, which not only, so MSP as of now works only minimum suggestion price, they want to make it as a guaranteed minimum support price. So if they do that, then we will know if they can really grow 32 million tons in 2030. Only time will tell if we reach that figure. Okay, now before we go into individual supply and demand predictions or outlook, this is the disclaimer. The font on purpose is small so that you can't read. And it says, basically means that whatever I say, I cannot be held responsible for that. And I have taken help of more than 40 people in the agencies in compiling all this data and information. So if you have any questions, I will gladly give you their email address. Please feel free to ask them. And also, we have following panels on desi chickpeas and lentils and chickpeas, so it's unfair for me to go more into details. Okay. This, of course, we have seen before. Now, when there is a big controversy, not big controversy, but fairly great deal of discussion on the government number not being correct or being over-optimistic in the election year, and people are rubbishing them as a populist gimmick. But one thing is undeniable, that our exporter friends from exporting countries would want India to import about 5 million tons, roughly. And from exporting, from our side, the government India data pushes about the 3 million tons. So reality is somewhere in the middle. And the difference could be explained maybe by way of the way we calculate our crop cycles or the way we classify our pulses. So the exporting nations and importing nations, the numbers may not be matching. But if you track general data, the desi chickpeas prices did come down, as Mr. Chandrasekhar rightly said, below the MSP. So that proves the point that there's indeed a large production of desi chickpeas and yellow peas. But at the same time, if you track the retail prices in India from January 2013 to January 2014, as per again from the same Ministry of Agriculture data from their website, then other than yellow peas and chickpeas, because they track only basin, chickpea flour, other things are up or marginally up. So these are two conflicting things there. Now for chickpeas, with record desi chickpeas, 9.79 million tons of production, and imports of about 250,000 tons, and with the record production also in Canada, and farmers this year, I think Brian would agree with me, farmers this year in Canada have made more money compared to other crops. So they would be encouraged to maybe grow more peas. So on the chickpeas front, I agree with Mr. Chandrasekhar, I see a bearish tone. On the peas, from bearish to steady, with import of about 1.3 million tons, and Indian domestic production anywhere from 750 to 700,000 tons. The good performers are lentils and mung beans, where the local production for the lentils is about 550,000 tons, and imports of the gap about 400,000 tons. And on mung beans, with local production of 1.3 million tons and a gap of 100,000 tons, we see the outlook for both these in short to medium term is steady to firm. On the black mudpay, with the local production of 1.5 million tons, imports of about 400,000 tons, and is steady to firm. Pigeon peas, whatever is the data we have available, the S&D looks like steady to sideways, with 334,000 tons of production and 270,000 tons of imports. So this is like more or less a price outlook. This indication is not any definitive word in terms of pricing, but this is what it looks like. Some quick emerging trends, if I have time, Mr. Chairman. Excellent. So we see 3-4 things I want to say. Farmers will not grow anything more if they don't get good price. The South Asian consumers, unless the pulses become like very fancy, or they will not buy pulses if they're not cheap. Developing countries will keep improving their yields, and will stop losses in the wastage chain. Ownerships are changing, big are getting better, big are getting bigger, the small ones are vanishing. Global supply chain is getting shorter. Intense competition for market share, so less chances for you to make mistakes. New emerging, we have seen the slide, Russia and Black Sea. Africa is emerging as a large contender for the pulses supply source. Changing market habits, Indian middle class demanding the quality pulses with loss of disposable income. Changing Chinese habits, eating more pulses. New usage of pulses as ingredients seems to the key or the new mantra. What is in it for us, all of us? As pulses, because it is a very ethical industry, we should grow more pulses, we should eat more pulses, we should trade more pulses, we should talk more pulses. In short, we should promote more pulses, because it helps not only our pocket, helps fight hunger and malnutrition. It's easy on the marginal and the small scale farmers in Asia and Africa. It gave ways to healthy living. And most importantly, it saves our soil and environment, which is very much needed for our long-term survival. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. We are here whole day today and tomorrow. So if we want to fight and criticize each other, we have plenty of time. Thank you very much.